Hey, what is up, headhunters, executive recruiters, all around beautiful people? And Neil, this is Headhunters Live, coming at you live this beautiful Thursday, November 7th. My name is Dave Seven Patterson, also known as DSP. And then right over here, we have my brother from another mother, Neil Lebovitz. What's going on, Neil?
Hello, David.
And I'm just kidding. You're beautiful too, brother. And then, but not as beautiful as this next person I'm going to introduce, the best looking man in the biz with the best hair, Chris Wessel. What's up, Chris?
Howdy. I said help my hair, so is hello also. Now, but wait, but don't let Dominic in because he's better looking than I am, and I think this is going to skew things. I'm used to being the pretty one in the room. What?
He is a looker. I'll say that.
What about what outfit?
Your preppy and waspy outfit. It's like, look at you with these collars. You're a handsome bastard.
Yeah, Chad. Brett.
Chad. I'm just going to change my name to Chad.
Well, today we have an amazing show for you and a really inspiring story. I'm really excited about this one. Domenic, or as he goes by Dom Maiani, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. And he's a recruiter, obviously, but he's got a really, really cool story. He's an ex-athlete, a hockey player who went, he then started his firm, did 1.5 million his first year. We definitely want to talk about that, as well as some of his secrets to his success, any war stories he has. And yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be a really great show. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this one, guys. So that said, I do want to get started though. Before we bring Dom on, I want to do two things. First off, I want to talk about our guest next week. So Neil, who we got next week?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot.
Famous one. Oh, sorry. Jeff Hyman of Recruit Rockstars, the one and only. So I'm really excited about Jeff Hyman next Thursday. A good buddy of mine. I've known him for quite a number of years. I've been to his podcast. He's been on actually, I don't think he was on our original podcast, was he? Actually, no, I don't think he was.
No.
I don't think he was. So yeah, this would be
with Jeff Volva.
Jeff Volva. Zing. Oh man, I love those dad jokes.
Is he brother with Buster?
Oh my God.
Sorry.
So
I think Dominic left.
Gutter, sir.
He's like, I got to get out of here.
Well, so speaking of that, let's talk about some of our beautiful sponsors. And because we eat our own cooking, we sponsor ourselves. I run a company called the Digital Headhunter, and we help companies deploy sales and marketing systems in about 30 days with an ROI guarantee. It is quite literally a done-for-you service. So if you're interested in it, all you have to do is go to thedigitalheadhunter.com/build. There's a 10-minute video detailing exactly what we build, how it works, why it works, and if you're interested in moving forward, just book a call on that page. In addition, Neil runs a company called Back Office Staffing Solutions, also known as BOSS, which I think is the best acronym for a company name ever. So if you want to be a boss recruiter and start getting some recurring revenue in your life and get out of this feast and famine, make a placement 1 month and then goose egg the next month, and you want to actually smooth out your income stream and get into contracting without having to deal with all the hassles of workers' comp and insurance and funding payroll and all that kind of BS, go to backofficenow.com. Neil, anything you want to add to that little promo before we bring on our special guest?
No, if you want to watch a good webinar pretty recently out of the box, just type in /GMM for gross margin method, /GMM. Great webinar. Watch it if you dabble in contracting and staffing.
And I've been,
that actually is very good.
I drink our Kool-Aid. I have been a BOSS client for a while now, so they're awesome to work with. I can tell you. I used to use a factoring company back in the day in my last firm, and BOSS just makes a lot of sense for a solo recruiter.
Thank you.
And I will say this one last thing. I do want to throw one thing in there. I also have a guide. It's called The Art of the Killer Sales Call, a no bullshit guide for recruiters. It's not about cold calling. A lot of people confuse it. This is about the actual call. When you set up a call with a prospect, how to run the call, especially if you want to sell higher level search like engaged or retained. All right. So go to realdsp.me/killer sales. All right. So with that said, let's bring on our special guest, the man.
Wait,
Oh, yes.
sponsored by the Syndicate also, and we got
Oh,
live training every week, Foundations. And tomorrow we've got a great one on interview. We've got 4 in the can already. David, what do you want to add there? Syndicate.
Do you want to add something in the can?
it's where elite recruiters go to play. Basically, this community it's a free community, completely free. It's like Narnia for recruiters. You go in there, we have free training, we have agreements, we have contracts, we have a forum community, we have one special forum specifically for memes. If you like white hot recruiting memes, go there. So it's a fantastic community, completely free. Go to the syndicate.chat. Thank you, Neil. I appreciate it. All right, now let's bring on the man of the hour, and that will be Dom. And by the way, while we're bringing him on, if you guys can do me a favor who are watching this, if you guys can hear us, make sure you mention in the comments, comment live. And if you're watching the replay, comment replay. We want to hear who's watching the show. All right. That said, Dom.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Man?
Thanks for having me. Thanks for
doing fantastic. Thank you for coming on. And actually, I want to dive into your story, man. You got a really good one. I want to sink my teeth into it like a T-bone steak, because it's just a really I love like stories of just grit and determination and one man against the world, that sort of thing, right? That kind of shit is inspiring. But before we do that, I guess just in your own words, who are you? What do you do? Tell us a bit about yourself.
So Domenic Maiani, thanks for having me on. Domenic Maiani, president of Lazio Search Group. We do supply chain logistics, supply chain tech, and mostly SaaS sales roles, engineering. Basically, at the end of the day, that's our bread and butter, but we can help anywhere, right? So, but yeah, thanks again for having me on. Looking forward to this call.
And another ex-athlete, handsome bastard in shape. Why are ex-athletes always good looking? I mean, I get the being in physical shape, but you.
Well, listen, I know I'm just kidding, but you just work out every day, right? You try to stay in shape. You got to keep your mind right. It's all mindset. And I think I have PTSD from working out at Ohio State. Those workouts, impossible. You basically go until you puke. It's like, I just try to get in there, feel good. I don't need to lift heavy, just a little bit. Just get in there.
Well, yeah. So for those who don't know, you come from a hockey background.
Correct.
So I do want. I have to.
Oh, go ahead.
I have to ask. Don't get offended. But I have to ask. So, I'm surprised you're coming up here with a full set of teeth, sir. What's up with that?
Well, where do you think that 1.5 million went?
They're gone down here, buddy. They're gone down here. So I gotta get all the grill here eventually.
So what did you play on your team? What position?
Center. So forward, center.
Smaller
guy, 5'10".
Now, being in Florida, Tampa, I really don't. Although we have a great hockey team, I don't follow it, so I don't know a lot about hockey. So the center, is that sort of like is that are you supposed to be like, I guess, be good at both offense and defense and be able to? Is that kind of the purpose of the center?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like a midfielder in soccer or lacrosse.
Yeah. Controlling the play, helping out the D in the, in your zone, and then transition into the offensive zone.
Excellent.
You want to call it like that or football?
Well, let me ask you, I guess, tell us about your start of the business. That not necessarily you started as a recruiter, but when you started your own firm, right? What was that like?
Scary at first, right? Everybody's probably scared when they're first starting out, but at the end of the day, it's just, for me, it was all a mindset. I knew I could do it, right? I already brought in the money in my previous companies. I'm like, it's just, why don't I do it on my own now? And this during COVID, and I have one kid, one on the way, so I was scared, absolutely scared. But if you put in the work, day in, day out, stay disciplined, just always listening to positive things, just naturally curious, always trying to get better. And even from where I was 3 years ago till now, just that difference in the people that I've met with, and just constantly learning, leveling up, right? And surround yourself with good people, take in good information, and help as many people as you can, and it all comes back to you.
How did you get the intro into it? How'd you even get turned on to the industry and made the decision?
Well, I started. That started a long time ago. So like 14 years ago, when I was done playing hockey, came home. I had no idea about recruiting. Like nobody really knows, right? I ended up getting into it and I loved it, but I really didn't see the long-term play of it like I do now, right? it's just for me, I love it. For me, it's like I'm not going to work every day. I get to have conversations and help change people's lives, and then I also get to learn about so many other industries. And then, as recruiters, you get people that reach out. Can you help my son find a job in nursing? Well, I don't do nursing, but I can now connect you with nursing recruiters. So just kept building up my network, and now it's just global.
It
Yeah,
is
it's
really
scary.
cool. Well, one thing I'll say about the business, and you probably agree with me, Dom, but I'd imagine you probably do, but maybe I'm assuming. But I've always thought that I like me personally, I wouldn't do well in a corporate environment. I'm just not a corporate guy. I've got a foul mouth. I'm independent. I don't like people telling me what to do. I hate to have a boss. But in this business, you can be removed from that, but you still get to play chess in corporate America, right? And it's pretty cool. Like being in that position, being able to move people around. Like, do you feel the same way? Like, are you not the corporate sort of guy?
0% chance I would last a week in a corporate job. The first meeting you put me on that was 3 hours long and 5 minutes had anything to do with me, I'm out. This was when my wife was working during COVID. She was at Mala, Tier 1 automotive company. And, I'm listening to one of the calls and I'm like, Brittany, this 3 hours, you had 5 minutes had anything to do with you. I would have been texting my manager saying, get me the hell off this call. I'm done. Call me when you need me. Separate 5-minute one-on-one. This is a waste of my time. And that's how some of these corporate companies run, but it's mind-blowing. You need 9 people to say yeah to turn a page. But
what about those TPS reports? What about those TPS reports?
Yeah. Well, how many reports? A million
your
reports.
wife's name is Brittany. Every Brittany's hot. It's a bizarre thing.
Yeah, she's a good-looking girl.
Yeah, they always are. You name your ugly child Brittany, and they'll turn out to be hot when they're older.
Don't tell her that, though. She'll get a big head and think Amazon card's still free. Just hit the button. You're good.
Well, all right. So what would you say? So when you start on your own, right? And I know that I'd heard before that you had some legal issues as well, right? So you start on your own, and I think maybe your prior company had issues with that. So I don't want to bring that up if you don't want to talk about it. But I'm just kind of curious because it's still an obstacle you've got to overcome, right? When you first start. So I'm curious, how did that work?
So when we first started, the market was hot, right? It's all timing and luck, and taking care of people. But the president, he was the president of one of the logistics companies I was working with. He moved to a major global company, and they were based in Grand Rapids, right? A couple hours away from where I live, Rochester. And he's like, Dom, can I work out of your office? And I go, absolutely. He's like, I'm going to end up moving and building up an office over here. I'm going to need your help. So my first month, and this is a unicorn, as you guys all know. First month, the VP of America is sitting in my office. I'm bringing candidates in, one interview done. Here's your offer, go. So that got me a huge head start, right? But, I put in the work. I called these people and at my team at the time, AKA best recruiter I've ever met. But, I'll tell you how I met him and recruited him. But it's just constantly learning, grinding, and figuring it out day by day, talking to people, getting on the phone, meeting people everywhere you can. My wife hates me because of that.
Well, would you say? Well, I'll tell you what. I had this, and again, I might be going a little crude here, but I had a buddy of mine years and years ago, and he kind of had the same thing where he was kind of like me. He's an independent guy, kind of does his own thing, and doesn't like to have a boss and all that kind of stuff. And his wife was more of the, she's kind of like she would be more comfortable with him having a corporate job and being a steady paycheck and yada yada. And he was like a sales guy, gunslinger, shoot from the hip. And he always told me, he's like, you know what? She might complain all the time, but she doesn't complain when I make those big deals.
Yeah.
Spot on. Spot on.
You go to Disney, California, 3 vacations in a year. Don't bitch at me and call me when I'm here till 6, 7, 8, 9 sometimes. It is what it is.
Well, because when you first start out, I imagine you probably would agree with this. I mean, there's a lot of people that I'm sure doubted you when you started.
Yeah. It's always been that way for me from hockey, right? You're too small. You're not going to make it. Well, I ended up getting 22 full rides. One of my favorite guys is Patrick Bet-David, and one of his books, Choose Your Enemies Wisely, is one of my favorite books because it's spot on. And then it brought that fire out for me. It's like, yeah, I remember when I was going into those games, playing against Michigan, fired up. Like, I still get that today when I come in, but you got to find something you love to do. Like, you know, how many people we probably talk to that are just so miserable going to their job day in, day out. I'm like, how could you live like that? Like, I would never be able to go to this job every day. I said, working for corporate, I'd be fired in a week because this is a joke.
I would have a field day with you, sir.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot to be said about having a chip on your shoulder, isn't it? Like when you know that people don't believe in you, and it gives you that extra fire inside of
I
you.
love it. I love it. If you look study all the greatest athletes, they all had a chip, right? Michael Jordan, everyone.
Tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it twice. Like,
I love when they tell me I can't do it.
In fact, the quarterback of Ohio State is a Pennsylvania boy, and his whole family was big Penn State fans. And he was saying last week, he has a chip on his shoulder that he wanted to go to Penn State. They didn't think he was good enough. So he's like, well, let's see what happens after this game.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he kicks some ass.
Yeah, I'll take that person all day. Right there.
100%. Well, Dom, you know, and by the way, we mentioned about Patrick Bet David, PBD. For those who are listening, if you guys haven't checked out his podcast on Valuetainment on YouTube, it's amazing. He's a guest from both sides of the aisle. And he's got business people, political people. He's got celebrities. It's a great show. So definitely recommend it. But that's a back on topic. As far as motivation, right? Because I think obviously being an athlete, I'd imagine you know how to motivate yourself. And I know a lot of people probably don't. Yeah. What do you do? Because it's not, motivation isn't an endless well, right? You have to consciously refill it. So what do you do on a day-to-day, week-to-week, whatever, but what do you do to actually refill that well of motivation to keep you going?
Well, first off, I got obviously a beautiful wife, 3 kids, right? So that picture's sitting right here. So the first thing I look at is that, right? But it's motivation. I'm listening to great podcasts, right? And then I use the Headway app, 15, 20 minutes first thing in the morning, right? You know, do my prayers, whatever, meditation, whatever you want to call it. And then, you know, I'll dig into AI for half hour, 45 minutes and go down a rabbit hole just to learn it. How do I get ahead of the game and who's doing what? And then I'll just go, all right, what's Andrew Ning doing? What's Fifi doing? And then just see what they're doing. And then, you know, 1 and 2 in the AI space. All right, let me just follow along with what they're doing. What are people using it for right now? How can I use it for recruiting? Whether it's now or in the future, and then what could I, you know, just always try, just naturally curious. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So what you're saying is habits.
Yeah.
Doing the same things every morning, like almost like a ritual. Like like for example, I know one thing that's always helped me, and I'm not the most consistent with it, unfortunately, but like journaling in the morning helps. Getting up early, or maybe going for a walk or working out in the morning helps. Like little things like that, and having that sort of structure, I think helps a lot as well.
You know what's so interesting? Back to your point, just to chime in on rituals. When I would do a keynote speech on employee engagement and self-engagement, one of the things we would talk about is the analogy between professional athletics or you know, college, between real athletes and performers in sales or whatever. And the reason why you get so much success from smart ex-athletes is that they understand that the pregame is 90% of the game. You're only on ice for X amount of time. It's all of the work that goes into it before you pick up that phone, before you close that deal. And that's what you're talking about. And I bet if we go through your whole day, it's filled with it.
Neil, you're spot on. Our coach used to say this to us all the time at Ohio State. You're 23 hours in the back room and 1 hour on stage, you know, and it's spot on. You're doing all these little things, trying to get a win that day, right? Some people, if you can't look out that far, just say, all right, what can I do for the next half hour? What can I do for the next? If you need to break it down by the minute, time block your day by the minute if you have to. But start somewhere, stay disciplined. If you're a solopreneur, you know, find a couple other recruiters. There's a lot of groups like this, right? Where you can say, hey, let's hold each other accountable. Let's jump on a call. Every morning for 5 minutes, just, hey, you told me you were going to make 3 videos yesterday. Did you make 3 videos? No. All right. Why not? You're getting lazy. You're in a funk. All right. Get out of that funk, because what good is that going to do for you being miserable for a week? Flip that switch. I always tell them, switch the channel and go that way right now. because you're going the wrong way. And what good does it do? You're sitting there for a week miserable.
So finding like mentors, unofficial or official, coaches, official or unofficial, like peers, like you said, that could give you that poke, like you said, that like if you're out there solo, like if you can't do the self motivation, or even if you just get stuck in a rut and you need to get like reset, like you need an external influence, I found, to get your head on straight. And building some of these relationships and developing these situations that might not be an official coach or an official mentor, but they're the people that you go to and you have a quick chat with them, and then you're like, they get your head on straight, and then you get out there.
Right.
One thing I've noticed, and you mentioned this, Dom, and it's a good point, in having shows like this and other groups. We have of course, the Headhunter and Executive Recruiter Community, or HERC, having that, and other groups as well, like Neil and Chris's group, Ursa, helps a lot. But I know when I first started my first firm, and social media really wasn't a thing, but then also we didn't have these groups, so I feel like I was an island, didn't have anybody to turn to ask questions of, and that was a bad thing. But at the same time, I also didn't have social media to distract me. And it feels like nowadays you have the best and worst of both worlds. You have all the support groups all around you and sources of motivation, but then you also have Facebook and X and Twitter, or TikTok and Facebook, and just do that scrolling where you scroll and you're like and that's a big negative. And I think though that now it's almost weird because you have so many support mechanisms that I didn't have back in the day, but also there's a lot more distractions. So speaking of that, what advice do you have for recruiters watching this that maybe need to learn how to focus? Because I think one of the things as an athlete, you probably have to learn, like, I would imagine, techniques for focusing, right?
Yeah.
And this is a business where you need to focus because you got no one telling you what to do. What advice would you give to recruiters to need to learn how to focus?
I mean, you could do read a book, Atomic Habits. I listen to podcasts, just download the app Headway, right? Headway, $15. It will literally, say I can allocate 20 minutes today or every morning to learn this, and just go through the high level bullet points of each book. But it starts your day off in a good mindset because you're not, it's like, okay, I get it. Boom. All right, light that fire. Let's go. That's, I think
is it a meditation app?
No, it's just it was
like highlights, like kind of the cliff notes on a book, kind of.
So I'm on day 3 of it. I really like it. Somebody told me about this. I can't even explain it, but it goes through each book. Where's my camera?
Oh, so it gives you like almost like cliff notes to go back to the reference of the book.
It will do an intake form on you, right? And then they'll say, all right, based on that and where you're trying to go, here's the books I recommend. And then they'll give you the bullet point, 15-minute summaries each day, 20 minutes, whatever you can spend. I highly recommend it.
Oh, yeah, I just pulled it up.
A great way to take in a lot of info, because I have a list of stuff in Audible that I will someday plan to listen to, but I'm just not gonna.
Right.
But
that's why. Yeah. Well, I was doing the same thing. I got a pile full of books that I got to get to, but I haven't got to them yet. So I'm like, all right, well, let me get the bullet points, but I need to. For me, I need to listen to it and then read it too. We'll see what.
Most books are fluff anyway. Even the really good ones, a lot of it's fluff.
Cut to
the chase. I get that. So those listeners, I just looked it up. It's makeheadway.com. Makeheadway.com.
Yeah,
thank you. Good recommendation.
Download that right now.
So that's good because early too, that gets kind of like the brain working and a little bit of creativity flowing before you start on your day. So
agreed. Yeah, 100%.
Well, let's dive into some business development. One of my favorite topics, and also probably one of the most needed topics for recruiters, because at the end of the day, finding candidates ain't that hard if you have a really good job. It's about finding a job, getting somebody to pay to fill it. So I guess walk us through that. Like how do you I guess to start broad, like just in general, like what are your thoughts on, or how do you market
what's worked
yourself,
for you?
Your business? Yeah, what works for
me?
You?
It's a lot of warm intros, connections, networking, going out of my way to provide value for somebody, even if I know I'm not going to get anything, right? It's just you got to think, if you're going to play this game, you got to play the long-term game on every relationship and truly care. And only surround yourself with those type of people. and you'd be surprised. Like last night, I was at. I'm also on the board of council supply chain management. I was at an event last night, met a new guy. It's just always networking wherever I go. That's why my wife hates me. Like we'll walk around the block of the sub, with the kids, and I talk to every neighbor. Well, that's just
that makes my wife nuts too. A half-mile walk around like our loop takes like 2 hours. She's like, I'm gonna go. Like, yeah. She's like, oh my God, we got to go when no one's home, or like.
You're the married recruiter. It's a
It's a reflex. You can't help it. It's natural.
Yeah, restaurants, wherever we went, our honeymoon. I ended up meeting a recruiter that's from Michigan and Grand Rapids, does the financial services. Blah, blah, blah.
You're chatting up the wait staff. You're chatting up everyone there, and they're just like, "Oh my God, can we eat already?"
You know why, too? One of my mentors told me this. He goes, "You never know the next person you meet that's going to make you a multimillionaire." And I'm like, never will I forget that.
Yeah,
that's what happened to him.
It's also muscle, man, because I know that for I used to have social anxiety back when I was younger, and so for me, I get these zones where if I'm continually social, it's really easy for me to be social because I've built that muscle. I've worked at it for years, but if I ever get lazy and I'm not social, like it's really hard for me to get back to being social. You know what I mean? And I think that's a good point where you have to be social in this business. I think it's a really good thing you bring up is practice on your neighbors, practice on the cashier at work, go to people at the mall and give them a high five, just randomly, whatever, just do weird shit, but just get out there and make people smile. And it's amazing the way that translates into work. Right.
Yeah. Talk to any and everyone, wherever you go.
Yeah.
And you just start to, next thing you know, you'll just connect dots when you're on calls.
Well, and obviously, like in a general sense, like that works. But like as far as like the business development, some of the things that's worked for you, especially when you're that first really good 12 months. Like I'm sure some people are kind of curious about like there are various strategies that recruiters employ in business development, and maybe there's some of them that work particularly better for you than others. I'm sure it'd be great to hear about some of that.
For me, I still love the old school way, right? I'll always pick up the phone. But if you can find a warm intro, and here's another example. I'm on a logistics networking call every 5 weeks with 50 to 100 logistics executives. And I'm the only recruiter in there, right? So then I meet them, and then I get connected through them. So that's a warm intro, right? And I'm going to events, but yeah, email campaigns. But I recruit some of the top salespeople. Never sell going into the messaging. Just find a way to provide value, get them engaged, and then get them on a call, build a true relationship, partnership, and then you'll see the business just go boom, boom, boom.
Well, that's an important nuance. Sorry.
Yeah, so many people just try to go out. I see this role open. I want to help you fill. I have a candidate. Okay, 95,000 other recruiters are saying the exact same thing right behind you.
Well, and that nuance you mentioned about like not trying to sell right out of the gate. I mean, I know sometimes people will talk about tactics and they'll talk about like channels, like mass emails or using the phone or using LinkedIn or whatever. But a lot of times I feel like they don't talk about like what's the actual messaging. And they're like, I sent tons of email and it didn't work. I used LinkedIn, but it didn't work. I made cold calls, but it didn't work. But it's like most of the time they don't get into like what is actually said. And like, that's a big part of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. We collect that on all our messages. What worked for this group? And even track it down by, all right, C-suites, this is working, right? All right,
so you're tracking that stuff. Okay, that's important.
Oh, yeah. I got an 18-year-old whiz kid out of Denmark right now it's the top 20 brightest kids in the country, and his average IQ is 140. This guy is also helping me fill it. But again, networking with everyone. And you know what? His parents told him if he makes $25K, he can quit college. I said, all right, well, let's fast track that. Let's get you going because I want you. And then I introduced him to the other people from Stanford, and it's just networking all the time.
That tracking is really interesting too. Like that. So what do you have him doing? Could you just dive into that a little bit, like in terms of
Yeah, I know what you mean. So we'll have we'll have E1, E2, E3, E4, depending on the industry, depending on the niche, right? Supply chain logistics is very broad. And then you can get into WMS SaaS, TMS, supply chain visibility. There's so many sub niches. So we'll try different messaging depending on the pain points, but the first intro message is short and sweet. Sometimes I don't even send a message, just connect, see if that works. Try different things, track it, see what's working, and then go this route, right? The you have to be eyes and ears on the ground to know what's really going on. Otherwise, you're going to say, oh, that didn't work. Or I heard somebody say that didn't work. Everything works if you make it work, right? So it's not rocket science. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. Believe me, the guys that I meet with, the people I talk to, they are brilliant. And I'm just like, wow, just constantly learning, leveling up, naturally curious, and surround yourself with the right people. I think that will get you far.
Yeah, well, it's about not overthinking it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people overthink it. They get paralyzed, or was it
Analysis paralysis.
analysis by paralysis, or
Yeah.
paralysis by analysis? I think I messed that up. But yeah, you know what I mean. They get paralyzed because they're overthinking things, and a lot of it is just getting out there and just mixing it up. I think
Yeah.
it's kind of like when you when you're single, when you're footloose and fancy free, young bachelor on the prowl, you're trying to find love in the wrong places. One of the best things you can do is just, again, talk to people, be friendly. You don't have to do, be online, be social, go to clubs, go to bars, just talk to everybody that you can. And it's not about the lines that you have. It's about being an interesting person, looking good, smelling okay. So don't be stinky, but it's about just being presentable and being social and being interesting. And even more than that, being interested in them. There's that great line from Dale Carnegie. There's Dale Carnegie, or he said, if you want to be interesting, be interested. And so sounds like you do that. You're interested in what they're doing. It's all about them. And the more that you're about them, the more they look at you as a good resource, right?
Well, what I look at it is like, look, they came to the market with a SaaS solution to solve a pain point. Now, how can I solve their pain points on the talent acquisition side? Because I already know how busy they're going to be doing this, right? I work with enough startup CEOs that they just nonstop 14, 18, 24-hour days. It takes what it takes in the beginning, and you have to do it. Otherwise, you'll do it for yourself or for somebody else. So you pick. It's that simple, Well,
all right. So let's talk about this. So speaking of business development and getting new business, what's next year looking like for you? Right. We just had an election, red wave across the country, and obviously, some people are about it, and some people are cheering in the streets. So, but beyond all that, based on that, how are you looking at the market next year? Like, what do you predict?
For me, I had between the last 2 days, 15 plus calls with C-suite, just finding out, hey, what's going on? What do you think? Everybody's in a positive direction right now. And these are people that are on both sides of the party, even though we don't want to talk politics, but let's be real. They are pumped that the country is going this way. And now they know how to operate in the market for at least the next 4 years. So it's game time. Let's move. We're going away from this. We're going to this. So then that's trying to, again, naturally curious, researching what industries are popping, what new little niches are popping up, and how can you get in there? So I'm always learning, but you have to be talking to people to understand what's really going on.
You make a good point. The people that you're talking to on both sides of the aisle, but they're all confident. It's interesting you bring that up because there's a lot of folks. So I made a post in the Herc, yes, I think it was yesterday, and I said next year we're gonna have a hiring boom. And man, everybody sort of commented on it and loving it, liking it. And of course, you had the naysayers like, and granted, while maybe people listen to this may be on the other side of the aisle, they think, hey, tariffs or whatever is going to slow things down. The best thing you can do is just to assume it's going to be great and act as if and take advantage of it and go because
that's all you can do.
You make your own reality in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. So is it going to affect the market? Yeah, but what are you going to be able to do about it? Nothing, right? So you got to create your own market. There's enough money out there. You just got to go find it. But you have to be willing to put in the work. You can't just sit there. Like I guarantee some of the recruiters I talk to that I'm helping on the business development roundtable, and others that I talk to, I guarantee you if we sat right next to each other, it said, hey, are you doing this, this, and this? No. And you already know that you're supposed to do this, this, and this. So don't sit there and say you're struggling because you have not done everything you know. We all know what to do. It's just being disciplined. What we said at the start of this conversation, discipline every day, consistency, right? And that's where I see a lot of people fail, and then they'll beat themselves up. It's like one placement. You can't do that. You got to shift your mindset immediately.
The activity, but then also like you could have activity that goes in the wrong direction, right? So like you have to, like we were just talking about, look at kind of things from a macro perspective and just understand that like it's just, I've always felt this just a series of gold rushes throughout my career where it's never in one place, right? Like it's coming over, there's oil popping up over here, there's whatever, right? So like, you have a client that's got a shelf life. They're great for a while. And at some point, like they don't need you as much anymore or not at all. And you got to look at, like, there's so many recruiters I'll talk to over the years that will be blindsided when suddenly, like, some companies they work with aren't hiring anymore. And they're as shocked as some of the employees are. But if you're looking at like macro trends and you understand and you follow like industry news in the spaces that you're in, like you should see some of this stuff coming. So like just the sheer raw effort of making the calls or whatever activities you're doing isn't enough. You have to do it like in the right direction too. You got to put your head up. Like you said, you called 15 CEOs right after an election, right? So like you got to know what's going on out there to know where to direct your effort. And I think that's
I would love to show you some of the messages.
Some of what you're saying.
Yeah, it's all positive. I'll put it that way. So that's the mindset you got to have, no matter what. So might as well
you got to make it work either way, right?
Right. So what's the difference?
I think a lot of it as well as being different. I think you mentioned this earlier, Dom. I forget exactly how you put it, but basically we're all kind of saying the same things, or we're all, at the end of the day, like everybody finds the best candidates. I find the best candidates. Great. There's every other recruiter out there. So what advice would you give to, and obviously every recruiter is different. Everybody has different differentiating factors, right? But just in general, what do you think beyond networking and beyond adding value, right? So cover that. But what are the other ways that recruiters can differentiate themselves from the pack? Because again, everybody's finding the best candidates. So beyond that, like what can they do to differentiate?
Just be authentic. Go out there and be authentic. Don't try to even in the beginning when I was doing it, I was so worried about my emails to CEOs and C-suites. And then I got a response back from one that was one-liner, no caps, no period. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. You type like that? I would love to type like that because that's how I like to do it. Just fly through it. So just be authentic and genuine. And that's what people want. There's so many people that fake this, that, or they're watching this Instagram life, with this person. No, you got to put in the work day in, day out. Otherwise, good luck.
100%. And authentic doesn't mean, posting a video of you crying about the election online. That's not.
No.
We're talking about be authentic in an authentic way, right? Like,
right.
And like being able to offer value and also maybe even showing a little bit of your personality. Because it's a personality business in a lot of ways.
Spot on. And I was watching. I was talking to this guy. He does video marketing. He was showing me this guy he started working with 2 million impressions in 2 months just by being consistent on the videos. And here's the thing: you might not see results right away, right? Maybe they are not commenting or getting likes, but guess what? I've had that happen, and they come in the messages and the DMs, and that's all you should care about. Who cares how many likes you get? You need to stay top of mind every day and try to get in front of the right people, right? But then you got to also balance it too, depending on how big your team is, because you don't want to take on too much that you can't handle, especially in direct placements.
100%. But you're right. It's about being out there, being, I guess, authentic, but also consistently authentic, and being out there. And also, I think there's something said about being a little bit entertaining, because if you're boring, people just
you gotta stand out,
right? Well, just by it. So one of the CEOs I was reaching out to, I don't recommend this, but sometimes I don't care. 8 messages, no response. The 9th one, I said, listen, I'm a young, hungry ex-athlete. I already work with your competitor. You don't want me to steal all your talent. And then next thing you know, he says, hey, Dom, I'm going to set you up my head of customer success. Let's have you meet Monday. But how many people are going to get to that 9th message? Are you going to get to that 9th message of no response at all? Most people don't even get that far, right?
Here's the thing, though,
and then
I bet you if that was a line and you just used that in your messaging, it probably wouldn't work. But the fact that you're authentic and you're feeling, like, I imagine probably at one point frustrated, you're like, look, right? And it was that tone in your voice that made it work, not the fact that it was a line, right? I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, like I have a map over here. These are my target customers. So I'll get them, or they're going to be a source. And that's what I'll tell them sometimes. Good luck. You're either going to be on my team or against me. You pick. Choose your enemies wisely, going back to that book. And I straight up will say that to customers because I don't care. If I get my no up front right away, great.
It's better than, either you didn't hear back.
I'll battle for someone else.
Right.
Well,
You send messages forever and never hear back, or you could
Right.
throw that Hail Mary that you did and said, fuck it, let's see what he says. And if they say no, then now you know. And if they don't, then you got yourself a call.
Either a partner.
Speaking of that, actually, speaking of that, one thing I used to do, and I don't recruit actively anymore. Now I just do this, but I remember one thing I used to do, which is my mind. And I got clients out of it, but it was kind of out there. Is every time I made a placement and I pulled somebody from another position, I always made sure I called their leader and introduced myself as the person who poached their employee. I had some nasty conversations, but I also had some good conversations. I got clients out of it because you're doing that thing that no one else is willing to do. Because who else is willing to go and talk to the boss of the person that you just pulled, right? Like, oh yeah, I'm the guy that did that. We'll have to work with you too if you want me. You know what I mean? Like, and that's something I think a lot of going, be willing to put yourself out there, and be. Well, it is. I think it's being bold, right? What you did was that was a bold move.
Well, DSP. So what you just said is spot on. Because I'll say this: let me know when you want to stop the bleeding, because that's only one. I'll keep going until and then I'll go higher up to CEO. Hey, you can thank your VP of sales on this. He is bleeding you dry. Good luck.
Let me know when you want to stop the bleeding.
Expensive. 6-month ramp up time. Then you got the honeymoon phase that's over after a year. Now let's see what they can do after year 2.
That is great.
But you're standing out because you're differentiating, because you're doing something different, because we all provide at the end of the day more or less the same service, at least in the eyes of the customer. And if you're just out there vanilla recycling content that everybody else uses and saying the same lines that everyone else uses and saying in the same tone, and you're a fucking robot, and there's really you differentiate on your personality and your style, because you're going to click with customers or not, right. But the ones you click with are going to work with you. And
you're spot on, Chris. The ones that I love working with, they're the ones that click with me, that think like me, right? We need to win. And that's why I think I love it. It brings the hockey, the competitive, just like hockey. It's like, we need to win. We need to get the best talent. How do we get them? All right, let me go find them. Let me talk to everyone in the industry. Who's making what over here? How are we going to retain them once we get them over? Make sure nobody steals them. That is a true talent partner.
And you're saying we, which means you're putting yourself. That's an important nuance I added myself a while back. Was like, I'll be talking with the owner. I'm like, okay, here's what everything's we, not like I'm going to go do this, or for you guys. Like, I talk we. What are we going to do? Because little nuances like that, cement the partnership, I think, in their head.
Yeah, to end with a baseball analogy, since we've been talking sports, but I've always loved this strikeout swinging. We have nothing to lose. Like take a swing. They're not a client of yours. They're not a client of yours. You can't say anything that'll make it worse than that, really, if you think about it that way. They weren't before the phone call. They're not after the phone call. So I can get aggressive. I could try my personality, try these things, and it could only work or not work. There's no downside.
Well, at least you got your answer. Right. At least you got your answer. If you got your no up front, great.
Strikeout swinging. That's one thing I learned as a young man. Again, being footloose and fancy free, and you're looking for the love all the wrong places, and that whole deal. One of the scariest things for a young man to do is walk up to a pretty girl in a bar and strike up and not use a line, but be interesting and have a good conversation, but being bold and doing it. It's very attractive when you do that. And the worst that can happen, she says, no, that's okay. You get a no out of it. And I think a lot of ways, like making a cold call like that, which I think for a lot of recruiters nowadays is really scary, just even making a cold call. That's that going out there, or even worse, calling the person you just pulled somebody from. Like, how bold is that? I think the more that you're bold like that, the more when you get used to it. So it gets easy. It gets a lot easier. And secondly, I have to imagine, like, when you say that to a prospect, or anybody, from all the dozens and dozens and dozens of recruiting calls and sales pitches that CEO has gotten, he's going to remember that, what you said, because of the boldness.
Right. Well, and then if you really think about it, it is a true battle for the top talent, right? At the higher levels. And you have to treat it like that. And you got to know your enemies inside and out. And what they're doing, how are they keeping these guys? And that's what I try to do. And I talk to as many people as I can inside of that niche to understand really what's going on, what are the pain points. And, then you can have, when you're on those calls, they get it. They see the spirit and like, all right, let's battle. Let's go to war. Let's win this one. We're going to crush them, especially if our SaaS solution is better. Let's take them out.
Well, I think as well, when you're showing them your boldness, you're almost demonstrating here's what I'm willing to do for you. If you were my client, I'll be this bold for you too. And I think that's a big part of you're demonstrating like the lengths that you'll go to get them talent.
Well, and again, I'm not for everybody, right? There's companies that are like, oh, that's too aggressive. Well, next one. Now I know I don't need to work with you. I want to work with people I want to work with. And that's the benefit of owning your own business. You get to pick who you want to work with.
And when you do pick, and when you screen out the ones who aren't really a good fit, it gets more profitable.
Right.
You actually, like, people, like, I think there's a fear sometimes when you start off on your own. And I know I felt it back then too, of, you wanting to not turn down any possible money. Right. But then I started realizing that and it took a little while to get there, but I started realizing when I worked at companies that I really clicked with, that really got it, that really valued it, that we had a good relationship, they kept coming back and coming back and coming back and referring other companies, and it led to good work. And the companies that I shouldn't have been working with in the first place, like moving on from them, ended up actually like making me more money, right? Because now you're not wasting your time on situations where maybe like, you don't really click and like you're not really that valuable to them, and maybe make a few bucks here and there, but that's that customer that like they'll sign a contract and they'll give you 25%, but like getting interview feedback out of them is like pulling teeth, or they'll go make an offer and not tell you about it. They'll still pay you somehow, but like, and some people are like, oh, that's a good client. It's like, that's a freaking nightmare client. Like you're just rolling the dice when you work with them. And sometimes you get paid, and moving away from that, you just get so much more profitable.
Absolutely. You have to vet out your clients and set expectations right up front. Like, hey, I need to know if anyone's going on vacation. I need to know I need to meet every hiring manager first. That's what I do. And then I set up a weekly cadence call. Like, all right, here's what we got. What do you like about this candidate? What do you not like? And then dial it in from there. And then number 2 should be spot on. And that's why they're paying you. So you don't waste their time. You bring them the top talent, right?
And if they're not, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just say, if they're not on board with that, then you can't work together. Like, cause it's like, hey, this is what works. If you want to work with me, if this makes sense, there's other ways to do it. You do it with somebody else. And it's funny you mentioned that cadence call. That's a really good one. I found that to be super helpful, because I used to do, originally I started doing just like a weekly report or something, or just like I give them updates, because I was trying to, like a lot of times the complaint with recruiters is that we don't communicate. So I would try to give them information, but then I was realizing that I was still chasing them down for updates. So I found, and I'm glad you do that too, that weekly like scheduled cadence call is an opportunity for you to give them an update, but it's also an opportunity to pin them down. Like, hey, where are we at with this one? Yeah, let's set you up to talk with this person. Are we moving to an offer on that one? Do we want to cut this one loose? Like, if you have that scheduled, it makes such a difference.
Chris, you're spot on, because you're optimizing your clients. All right. Because if I know if I'm working it, I know I can get a placement here. Otherwise, you might be working on that one, spinning your wheels for 2 weeks. And then, in sales, time kills deals. So, especially in a war for talent, when you get at the top, let's say, because what I do is direct headhunting. I'm going to find the direct competitor that they want, and I'm bringing them over. So we need to get them over quick while they're interested, and they like this company, where they're going. Right, they've done their research. They already know about them because they're competing against them. So, that just knowing all that. But you're spot on, Chris.
Right. Actually, it's a great advice, and candidly too. And it's one of those things where if you don't ask for it, you're never going to get it. If you don't, you don't get it, it's a red flag, right?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, how many recruiters I talk to that are like, oh yeah, it's been 3 weeks. Should I ask for feedback? I go, what? 3 weeks? I would have been freaking out after 48 hours max.
You see, the thing is, like, Dominic, like, after talking to you, it makes you realize that this business is not that complicated. Like, probably hot hockey is not that complicated, but it's just there's probably like a few things that you need to do right, which are really hard to do. But if you can do those, it's not complicated, right? And then you'll succeed. And just like in this business, there's timeless principles that have been around since the day this business was born, right? The cadence calls and the communication and being bold and all
Human
those
nature.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like winners want to work with winners. Winners want to work with winners, period.
That's right.
That's what I've noticed. And these guys, like there's people I'm talking to at 5 a.m. They're not sleeping either. Like, all right, let's go. You want to start right now? Let's go.
I have some clients that most of the time,
I
only time I get to talk to them is like that when I'll be emailing with them back and forth at like 6:30 in the morning, and that's when I can catch them. And that's I've scheduled interviews at that time. We've ironed out an offer at that time. We're text like that's when you can catch owners or just busy people. It's like, and I'm up early, and half the time I send out a message to them, and then they're like, they write me back, and I'm like, oh, okay, I got we got a window here.
I was just on a call with someone in Spain, right? Leader in Spain. And they're like, hey, you could 6 a.m. I didn't realize it was 6 a.m. But the head of town was like, is that time okay with you? I go, yeah, perfect. Got him on the call. He's already locked in. Accepted. Let's go. I'll be there at 6 a.m. Why would I change it? And then he might say, no, I can't make that one now. Well, now you lost your shot. You had them. They're busy. You cannot waste their time. Especially if they're killing it.
Well, Dom, it's about time for us to start wrapping things up. But before we do, and first off, I really appreciate you coming on. This has been a great conversation. Now, lots of good little nuggets as well. But as we wrap the show up, is there anything you want to maybe leave recruiters who are watching this who maybe are either struggling or just kind of feeling unsure of themselves or unsure how the next year is going to be or whatever? But what can you give some like last parting advice to the folks watching this that might need some of that help? What would you say?
I would say start listening, instead of listening to music, listen to podcasts that are getting you motivated. Get in these Facebook groups. There's a lot of people that are willing to give their knowledge away if you want it, right? But you got to want it. You got to be talking to them. And then go into a lot of networking roundtables, whatever. Go to events. Get out there. Just get your mindset right. Switch the channel right now. Stop getting in your head there's a week where I lost 150K. I could have jumped. Most people would have jumped off a bridge. What do? You have to flip the channel and go the other way right away. It's part of the game.
You do a recruiting roundtable each week. I
just started. Yeah, it's been we're on session 5.
How can people access it? How can people access it if they want to follow you and listen to them?
Oh, so it's on YouTube, but it's every Thursday. We put the link on the Herc group and Recruiters Online. So it come and go as you please, but they'll all be recorded. And it's not like just me talking. It's everybody sharing. Hey, this is what's working in my industry. This is what's working over here, right? And just you could take little nuggets from each person, constantly learning.
Excellent. All right, Don. Well, thank you very much. Again, I really appreciate having you on. And as well for those folks who are listening, again, if you're watching live, comment live. And if you're watching the replay, comment replay. Share the show with your friends. Make sure you like it. Smash the like button or whatever. You know what I mean? Show us some freaking emotion. We want your emotion, even if that's fine. Hate watch us if you want. But that said, one last thing. If you want back office support, go to backofficenow.com. If you're looking for a really high octane growth machine for your practice, go to the digitalheadhunter.com/build. And last but not least, go to the syndicate.chat, completely for free. If you want a free training, a community, white hot recruiting memes, and all that kind of juicy stuff, go to the syndicate.chat. Fellas, it's been a fantastic show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank
you, Dom. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And we'll see you next week with Jeff Hyman. Peace out.